Is it upside down? No.
No, it's perfect.
Good, because otherwise I get memed. Well, it's not that I complain. I like memes, but yeah. Okay, so it's good. Okay, well, welcome to a new edition of our community call. So let me give you, as usual, a short update of activities that went on this week. But first, let me have some mate. Okay, so as you know already, the main thing for us is the next version of the court, the Kleros 2.0, which is going to be, we expect, a faster, cheaper, and hopefully more secure than the current version. So that's where most of the efforts are currently put. But we have published a couple of weeks ago quite comprehensive blog post about the specs that we are implementing into the court. So that's a work in progress. As I know that you want to know how progress is going, we are going to do next month actually, a special edition of this community call with a presentation by Clément and JB, who are those who are like deep into the development of the court. Now we are in the stage of developing the smart contracts. There are different discussions that we have internally on basically how to better implement, or if we want to change some of the specs of the arbitration standard that we have developed for the previous version. So this is about how the Kleros court interacts with the arbitrable apps that can use Kleros. So, well, this is basically business as usual, because when we developed the first version, we had like almost zero experience with real use cases. Now we have over 1,000 cases, and we have a much better understanding of what arbitrable apps, arbitrable protocols want when they interact with Kleros, and when they plug to Kleros, and how to connect information, then data flowing from one side to the other. So all of this is kind of is managed by this arbitration standard. And our vision is that if all of the decentralized justice protocols can follow a similar standard, they will be interoperable, and that would make a much more horizontal and I think fair market for all the participants. So that on the smart contract development side. Then, as you know, we also have this went in parallel. We have the UX UI design, on which Plinio have been working for a long time now, and still doing some user testing to make sure that everything is lean, and that it's easy to understand, and that it's very easy to use. In particular, because this new version is going to have a different way to display arguments and counter arguments, and online discussions. How to make this more easy to understand for users. It's another priority we have. So that's and this goes in parallel to the smart contract development we are doing. Then some discussions about integrations, and in particular one that is probably going to be announced quite soon, that I'm quite certain that you're going to like it. This is now that I'm checking the other screen, because I have updates going on there. So that's a very interesting integration imminent to be announced as we finish the last details on communications and that. Then I had different conversations with others, but of course I cannot still mention much because it's still ongoing conversations for integrations. Some of them into the realm of real world assets. As you know, we have been working with Maker Foundation on how to use Kleros to verify real world assets that become tokens into the blockchain, and this work we have been doing made us experts in I wouldn't say experts maybe, but because it's still early stage, but it's made us one of the main people who are leading this very fascinating new industry of of anti-fraud in tokenization activities. So lot of people who became aware of the work we were doing with Maker, they came to see, well, how can you use Kleros to verify real world assets in XYZ industry, of which many different industries have like assets that could be made tokens and traded on chain. So this is likely to become a quite interesting use case of Kleros in times to come, but still early stage that. Then we have this week we announced the version, the new cohort of the people who are going to do the fellowship. We are really happy to welcome them. I think there are 15 people. I'd say that maybe half of them are going to work on NFTs. What gives you some sense and some idea of how important Kleros can become into adjudicating a number of situations in the context of, I would say, intellectual property law, or the future of intellectual property, which is likely to become to be on chain, and there's going to be like lots of situations of infringement and plagiarism, and you name it, that will require some decentralized way to deal with that. So if you see the resumes of the candidates that are going to work on this, you will see like a lot of them are IP lawyers. Well, it makes a lot of sense that this this year was the year of NFTs for sure, and so this is creating lots of interest in how Kleros can work for securing and make for a more transparent marketplace of NFTs. And also do remember that one of our projects that we are incubating at the incubator is indeed an NFT project. Reactions is a project that is mixing NFT marketplaces with social. So this is another sign that the time of NFTs is coming, and Kleros can play a very important role in making sure that this industry is transparent and secure for users. Well, then more boring things that's about reporting stuff. As you know, Kleros is a company, the cooperative is backed by the French government, and this is we are expected to submit some reports of what we are doing, and that make sure that, so for them to make sure that we are actually spending the money where we said we would spend it, which of course we are. So then writing the report, and of course probably next month, as we submit this, then we are going to use all this information to write a quite comprehensive community update report for next month. Another thing, the incubator. Since I mentioned the incubator, we are past midway of the program, and we already had a lot of workshops with the teams, trying to help them structure their projects into the right direction, based on the experience we had at Kleros. And we plan to do kind of demo day in January for them to present what they have been working on to the community and to potentially, investors. And so we are going to coordinate that. I imagine that this will happen. So next month, maybe mid-January. This cohort is finishing on January 17th. So we will do that before that. We have like two or three workshops left in the program. Yeah, I think three. So that's another thing that's going on now. Then still doing recruitment calls, interviews, all that. As you know, we have different positions which are open. Yeah, and still recruiting candidates. And I will let William also mention a bit about some updates from the research area.
Well, you already hit on some of the things that I'm doing anyway. So I had a fair number of discussions with JB on sort of the specs about the development of the court, particularly as they're implementing the bridge, some fine points of exactly what that will look like. I'm already getting requests for data from our new fellows on sort of past cases, so I'm in the process of compiling that for them. I wrote my section of the report for the French government, of course, on our past year of research, and then also sort of similarly on the lines of stuff we're doing under the terms of that grant to the French government, where part of the conditions of the grant is that we're writing a certain number of academic articles based on our learnings at Kleros that have maybe are related to our research, but have broad general interest. And the next sort of article that we're writing along those lines is on griefing factors. This idea of how can you make a cryptoeconomic system resistant to sabotage. So I'm expanding our thoughts on this, which will both serve to write that article, and then some of these ideas have already incorporated into our current specs for the next court. But then to the degree that we have new observations that can make the systems even that much more sabotage resistant in future versions.
Good. William, maybe you should expand a bit more on the bridge so people can appreciate all the complexity that goes into making Kleros a secure system.
Well, so the bridge thing is it's most relevant if we wind up on an optimistic rollup, or if Kleros winds up on an optimistic rollup. So as it isn't totally finalized which rollup the next version of the Kleros Corp will be on. Both optimistic and ZK rollups are in consideration, and most of the specs for the court are sort of rollup independent. They can work anywhere. The sort of ultimate questions about which rollup to use, because they're all fairly similar from an application level. What changes from one rollup to another is kind of under the hood, is more a question of what other projects that are likely to require dispute resolution services are on which rollups at which time, when the decision is made to launch. The actual differences you need to change and how you design the contracts are fairly minor. But an exception to this is that if Kleros winds up on an optimistic rollup, that means there's an intrinsic delay in how quickly results of disputes can be reported to other dApps that aren't on the same rollup, whether they're on a one or on another optimistic rollup, whether they're on whether they're somewhere else. Kleros being sort of this middleware protocol that makes disputes for resolutions of disputes for other platforms. You want it to be able to interact fluidly with other platforms, and waiting a week for an optimistic rollup sort of confirmation of the resolution on L1 so that it can be used either on L1 or somewhere else is kind of long. That adds already it takes a few days to resolve a dispute, but that adding an extra week can be burdensome, and particularly in cases for sort of small scale disputes that should be faster than that. But ultimately, the kind of optimistic rollup confirmation time, there's sort of game about submitting of the state of the rollup and being able to challenge that is calibrated for the most valuable things on the rollup. And what you can do, sort of inspired from the idea that proponents of optimistic rollup have endorsed, that you can have kind of liquidity providers who will help you move your assets on and off of a rollup in exchange for like a fee. You want to move your ETH onto a rollup or something, and you or like off of a rollup. So like you send it to like a third party basically in exchange for them releasing a slightly smaller amount of ETH on L1 before you'd have to wait for the confirmation time. And that's like trustless for the third party who's providing liquidity for you, because they can see the state of the rollup and they can see if there's not going to be a successful fraud proof. And by following both L1 and the rollup, they can like move assets around in like a way that's trustless for them. So what you can do with the bridge is basically the same thing, where you can report a ruling on L1 or on another rollup. They can then be challenged by somebody else who's like following the state of the rollup and saying, no, that's not the real ruling. And what this allows you to do is you can have a shorter challenge period that's better calibrated to the actual needs of Kleros, rather than being calibrated for like the worst case scenario of like the most valuable thing on the optimistic rollup. So that's sort of the high end version of the bridge. And I think this was discussed in my like workshop I gave in a previous community call on like what V2 is going to look like, if anybody wants more details. If Kleros winds up on a Zk rollup, it's less relevant. But you still have like questions of like, okay, like what if there's a dApp that's like living on an optimistic rollup that wants like dispute resolution, and how do I like pause the state of that dApp while it's asking for dispute resolution in a way that's like fluid and doesn't require timeouts. So the short of it is like, how can you have like a liquidity providing kind of system for state moving back and forth between a dApp and Kleros?
There you go. Okay, so that's one of the things that goes into the version 2 of the court. Oh, hello, Abir. Have you seen the profiles of the new fellows?
Hey, Federico. I've seen your post on LinkedIn, and I've read through that. I haven't actually clicked on the link yet and read through the more in-depth profiles. I'll probably get onto that. It's interesting though what you said. This year the focus is NFTs. I'm guessing the next fellowship is gonna be focusing on DAOs by the looks of it.
We have to be at the forefront of innovation every cycle. It's really. I mean, I think maybe half or even more of the fellows. So Abir was one of the participants in which one of the second cohort 2 or?
It was the very first one.
Oh, the very first one. Yeah, you're a pioneer. Yeah. So yeah, and you're one of the world's experts in decentralized justice, of course, now. So yeah, so we're really happy about the new fellows we have, and yeah, really, I'm actually really happy that they are going to research NFTs, because I sense lots of interest this, but not just in crypto. I mean, this is I think NFTs got to transcend the frontiers of crypto, and it's now like becoming part of mainstream legal world. We were invited to. I was invited to speak at recently at a panel that Sophie organized at ArtTech, and it was about IP and NFTs with Joe Radzinski from Thomson Reuters and Primavera de Filippi, and the audience was a purely legal audience of I guess IP lawyers trying to figure out what their job is going to look like in the future, if they're going to become Kleros jurors adjudicating disputes on NFTs or what. That's really fascinating. So yeah, the borders are blurring between crypto and non-crypto. So yeah,
there's a lot of buzz going on about the metaverse these days. It's not launched, but everyone's talking about it. So there's actually a bunch of events coming up, I think, on dispute resolution in the metaverse. Are you aware of that, Federico? Will you be speaking at it or something?
We are going to speak. I am going to speak at one. I can share this. I don't remember what the name, but also Sophie put this together. She's really active, and I was at an interview like 5 years ago, and I was saying to, I was interviewed by Max Kaiser, oh, look, Max Kaiser, and I was asking me, this was before Kleros, and he was asking, yeah, what do you think it's going to look like, the future of the law, right? And I was saying, look, I think that the future of law is, look, it's us having a dispute in a virtual reality world, and then this dispute being resolved by, this dispute can be between an AI and a human, and then the jury can be maybe of AIs, and it's kind of a decentralized jury of part of the AIs and part of them human, and everything happening into like a metaverse. I didn't say metaverse. I think VR world, but I was thinking, I think in Ready Player One. So of course, Max Kaiser thought I was a crazy lunatic, which maybe he was right in thinking that, but I'd say that this is kind of happening now, and we are going to have, Ready Player One. It's becoming real. So I've been interested in the metaverse for a long time now, and and what the law is going to be in the world of the metaverse, and that's why I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully, someone is going to get to work into this. I was kind of secretly hoping that someone in the fellowship would do that, but try to develop what I called back then, the New York Convention of the Metaverse, right? What should dispute resolution systems look like? Like if we had to do the New York Convention again now with what we have now, and for the problems that we will have in the, 20 years to come, like what would this look like? So maybe Abir, if you want to work on that, you have my full support.
Thanks, Federico. I think my ongoing PhD work does touch on that, basically on redefining our conceptions of due process and fairness and justice in the age of, decentralization. So this is actually, a massive project. It seems pretty like, a simple statement to make, but when you actually go into the principles and theories and philosophies underpinning it, it's quite an ambitious task. So, I'll be wrangling with this for a couple of years. And also, I'm having lunch this Friday with a sort of researcher on the metaverse regulation. He's all kind of interested in how, Kleros can be incorporated to regulate objects and institutions inside a metaversal system much better than governments or states could. So, let's see what comes from that discussion.
Well, you can count on all my support for that. Let us know how we can help. We already have something going on about the experimental design of, for your PhD, and that's kind of the long-term vision we had at Kleros since the beginning, and since before Kleros, what are the institutions for the world of the metaverse in the end, right? And one very bullish thing I saw, that this happened like I think it was in June. The UK government is starting to. I think I mentioned this to you already, but let's do it again. Doing a number of new guidelines on dispute resolution in the digital, digital communities, on digital disputes, and then of course, and they consulted us and what our idea was for this, and so that report, which is what they are going to use in the UK for defining these rules, is has some. They already have this idea of community resolution. I don't know what they call it. They don't call it decentralized justice. They call it, community-driven resolution, something like that. And they have a very important thing that is like the possibility of having a dispute between parties that are anonymous, which is kind of it's not common in the world of law, let's say. But this already is being discussed, so it's happening.
True. I think, community-driven sounds a lot more, let's say something that you can sell better to a crowd that's less trustworthy of strangers and all, rather than saying decentralized. So I think that's a smart marketing move on their part.
Yeah, maybe we should just use that as well. Okay, well, I think that's update from me for this week. I don't know if you have any questions.
I
Okay.
can add something. Oh, was there a question?
Yeah, please. No.
Yeah.
Just
I was about to say that I will be for Kleros tomorrow and on Friday in Paris for the Ledger Open event. There will be probably a lot of announcements and talks involving Ledger, so I'm quite looking forward to that. There will be like some networking going on, some things that we're interested in. I'm not sure if I can already announce
you cannot.
that, but this is quite exciting, and I don't know if someone is in Paris and around there. I think there is a later networking event in the evening, which is not depending strictly on the conference. So yeah, just letting you know, guys. I'm really looking forward. Too bad I cannot share more.
Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, if you are in Paris and want to meet Annabelle, there she is in a Ledger event. And well, thank you very much for coming. And well, see you on Telegram, Slack, and at the metaverse. Bye, guys.
See you guys.
Thanks a lot, Federico.
See you.
Bye.
Everybody.